Deltarune, chapters 3 and 4 came out like months ago. I was gonna do a review, but it seemed kind of pointless with how big it is, and I thought I could add my own interpretation of events, how I perceived certain moments, messages I believed we're getting from Toby Fox, and where the story might be going. And an analysis of themes to assist us. I thought we could at least attempt to separate it by chapter to help digest this cobbled together investigation board I'm about to make in my head, but you know, eventually it will dissolve. So, as soon as we begin chapter 3, Ralsei spills the beans to Susie about Darkners being inanimate objects. In that scene we see some interesting things, what we can only assume to be Susie's room, completely barren of decorations, confirming of our suspicions about her home life. Okay, it's not technically confirmed, but like, come on, that's Susie's room. Look at the Godzilla poster. It's probably why it struck a chord that Ralsei has nothing in his room. The second thing to note is Image Friend, a recurring unnamed character the community refers to by its file name. It's very similar to the Amalgamate Endogeny from Undertale. This is the first time it's been shown on screen in the game. Like, you don't have to go out of your way to find out what it looks like. It seems like it mirrors Endogeny in many ways, except it has a face. I kind of assume that Friend is what I'm going to be calling him. I kind of assume that he is deeply connected to Noelle's Cat Petters game. I think a lot of people do, being that creepy, glitchy egg that Noelle raised, which left home due to happiness. Content that you can only get from the Spampton sweepstakes.
Are you a single mother? No? Well, you will be soon. This one's coming to your house, whether you like it or not. Years inside the ring. Years inside the ring. Years inside the ring.
If Friend is that special, then it mirrors Endogeny in another way. Endogeny's fight has you taking care of it like the fight with Lesser and Greater Dog. Noelle starts taking care of the egg like a normal pet, and it left due to happiness. I have no idea if this is significant. Maybe it craves violence or some shit. Friend only hovers around Chris and the player when we pursue the secrets of the game, not necessarily the weird route, even if it's connected to it via its appearance in Chapter 3's secret that replicates it. So I wonder if it'll be involved in the weird route at all, like directly. Friend has a pink and yellow motif I'm sure you're familiar with. The most popular owner of those eyes are Spampton, whose whole journey revolves around escaping to, in his words, heaven. He asks if heaven is watching during his fight. I think it implies that our real world is heaven. There's a prophecy that says the gang is destined to banish the angels' heaven. I take it to mean that whatever Friend's goal and interests are, it has a lot to do with us directly, along with Noelle from the previous information. Given that the weird route is heavily tied to Noelle and her submission to our morbid curiosity and unforgiving control, it connects really well. How exactly? I don't know, dude. Funny enough, there wasn't too much in the main story of Chapter 3 that gave us information that we didn't already have besides the song with a reference to Des. Raise your bats. I think we should analyze the lyrics. We can get a pretty good characterization from her because this is the closest thing we get to direct dialogue from her, at least for the foreseeable future. If you don't count the text found in the code, which isn't confirmed to be her. Probably is though. Come follow me into the dark with your heart as the ark. Meaning that we, the player, the soul, is the vehicle needed to reach the dark. The dark sounds like a place the way it's stated, and if it is a place, it reminds me of what is presumably Des trapped in the code. She said it's dark. It's a place only described by its darkness. Next line, which shall shine you the way, because I'm with you in the dark. Clear reference to the song With You in the Dark, and the shine is referring to the soul's power. We see it used to illuminate and reduce those projectiles in the shape of creatures in Chapter 4. Let's also not forget that the soul has the power to quell the dark fountain, but you don't need it to create one, as shown by Susie. Next line, with your heart as my mark, which shall guide you through the way of the waves. This is a wild shot in the dark. It doesn't make sense with what we have so far, but what if Des's goal is to free Chris, and that's at odds with both Chris's and Carol's goal, to get rid of the soul, our control. If we're the target, it makes sense, but I obviously don't have enough information to make that distinction. That might be totally wrong, but whatever the case may be, we know that from the events from Chapter 4, we are needed. It could also be inferred from the message in the Mantle game, you were used up. It could have been referring to Chris, or what I think is more likely, to us. We're being used. Speaking of Des, that's secret, entering 1225, the code we think is found in the guitar in Chapter 4, and the lock in Chapter 3 into the capsule machine, we're transported to a room with a walkway with no borders, playing the song Lost Girl. Eventually, Chris can find a small capsule machine and finds a black triangle. Could be a guitar pick since it's related to Death's holiday, December holiday 1225, Christmas Day. The triangle slips through Chris's hand and their hand seems to disappear. it's gotten painfully obvious that Chris's hand is significant. In every chapter, there's some reference to Chris not having one of their hands or their hand getting removed. The shadow crystals allowing Chris to see through their hand for one moment. The boat ride on the acid river with the several hands blocking it. Noelle getting tied to a hand just like Jesus Christ on a cross. Maybe hands are a symbol of control. It makes sense for the context. Queen is saying that she'll have something that we never will. Detachable hands. This kind of implies that Chris will be separating their hand themselves. There's the capsule machine foreshadowing that we just talked about. And to go even further with this, Chris biting their hand in response to us selecting the dialogue option they hate in chapter 4. And finally the mention of Blood Crushers 2, a classic movie in Deltarune. In it, Susie recounts the protagonist being attacked by their own hand in their own basement. She says this while we, the soul, are rummaging around in the basement. If the hand is meant to be us because we are also in the basement, you see where I'm going with this. It all blends together with the idea that Chris will somehow have their hands cut off to prevent us from doing something. I don't think this action is set in stone, however. You know what? Maybe Chris doesn't lose their hand. Maybe it's all metaphorical. If we look through that glass I mentioned earlier and aim it towards Susie, she's scowling at us. I think it's in response to something that we did as Chris, probably in the weird route. Speaking of that weird route, in chapter 4 we get an unsettling scene of Chris forcing the ring onto Noelle, which has some connotations of SA. SA by itself is stealing the agency of another one's body. Did Toby mean to invoke this specifically? On some level, I think so, yeah, but I think he wanted to steer away from that. It's just so dark and it's distracting and probably too much for even him to want to make. He ended up removing a scene where a rose loses its petals to avoid the idea that SA literally took place. I stand by the idea that it has been invoked, though, in the material. The reason I'm bringing it up is that Noelle's whole deal in the weird route is control over her own life, and the player's control over her. What do we see when we have the option to think about Noelle in chapter 4? We see a red dot. Noelle is shakily thanking us. This is similar to the moment where Chris places the thorn ring back on her finger. This might be a gross way to put it, but it's the only way I can think of. We've planted a seed in Noelle because of our actions. Our control over her is growing. She is an even better host than Chris, accepting our control with thanks. I think this is leading to an eventual clash between the gang and us, with our soul in the body of Noelle. It's a shot in the dark, I understand that, but it makes sense that waiting in the final chapter would be something like this to cap off this creepy, forbidden path. It'd be so much fun, and I think it would explore some morbid ground, even a greater taboo than Undertale's forbidden route. A more intimate and personal invasion. After all, Noelle has a fascination with breaking games, and I'd like to remind you that Noelle has been depicted as an angel, and so have we. Alright, so who is the knight? I don't know. I think it's Des. Darkness theme, their sword looks like a bat when they hold it up before they swing it to the side and it becomes a sword. They got a little bit of swagger to them. It feels obvious, but I think that's the case. But how can that be Des if she's lost in the darkness? Oh, fucking no. I don't know. What if she's planning to use the heart's power to turn back to normal since that's her target? Well, what turned her into that form to begin with? It's way too open. Speculating on Des and the Knight isn't satisfying to me because I don't feel like I can fit anything for now. It's all too loose. Oh no, I did think of some shit though. What if like Des wanted to bring about the roaring to merge the light and the dark world so that she can heal Rudy or something. You know, like bring the world of magic to them so they can use magic and plan on dealing with the roaring afterwards and just hoped that the player wouldn't be horrible to them. You see what I mean? It's like, it's pretty weak. It's hard to string something together. I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe you know a bit of information that can help me or share something that you think is going on with Des or with the Knight or anything. Chapter 4, we get a prophecy. A prophecy can be either a fun or boring element to any story. The characters either go against the prophecy or it's so vague that the audience works to fit the prophecy into their own view. A prophecy is not allowed to be easily interpreted and fulfilled. It's a little bland. So what did Mr. Tony the Fox do? He didn't show it to us. It was established that it is fairly accurate to a scary degree, and he only showed Susie and Rousey's reaction to it. Whatever it is, it's pretty damn grim. So what could that prophecy be? I haven't checked out anybody else's thoughts, so this is just my own, so sorry if it's basic. I think Rousey is destined to die. Susie responds to the prophecy when saying she wouldn't let that happen, and Rousey sure as hell wouldn't let that happen. I don't think Susie understands how little Rousey values himself. It's like beyond disorder. It'd explain why he doesn't want to own anything. He likes getting treated like shit. His whole life kind of sucks. He did mention that he just spent his whole life waiting for them to get there for the first time. I think Rousey was made right as the game began. The image of Rousey with blood on him in that chapter is a little spooky, and I think it does point to this reality. Also, since there is a heavy religious focus in chapter 4, aren't goats traditional sacrificial animals? Maybe I'm missing something here, and maybe that is just so obvious that Toby wants us to think that, just to subvert it. Whatever the prophecy is, the gang can break it either from Susie existing outside of it, or bending the words to mean what they want. We'll see. Since Susie came up, I wanted to explain what I mean. There's no way she's the prophecy girl, right? She's never felt defined by her gender in her own eyes. To us, maybe, because she and Rousey are anti-gender rolled characters. Not actively, they're just written to be different. When she got to her name in the prophecy being the girl, and that she had hope crossed on her heart, she paused. It's kind of like she was thinking if that made sense or not. It's so broad that it could be an astrology sign. So Susie accepts it. Later on, when she's climbing, she's thinking about all the times that she's been left behind, proclaiming that she is the girl with hope crossed on her heart. It sounds like cope. It really feels like it's building towards an opposite revelation, that she's not in the prophecy. Gerson even describes her as the dragon in his fantasy book turned video game. It doesn't seem appropriate to boil her down to the girl. We also got to keep in mind that Undertale and Deltarune exists in the context of that they're both games about playing games. A lot of humor and satisfaction of these games come from subverting the tropes of typical JRPGs. One of those has been in the selection of the main characters. The bully character goes through development, she becomes the center of attention on several occasions, she starts to feel like the main character. JRPGs typically cater to young boys, so in a generic one, the protagonist has some connection with a childhood friend who will function as the healer, who probably has the potential for a romance option with the player, or at least hints that the girl character likes the MC. The creepy romantic tone in the weird route is like a twist on the trope. It's like the game is forcing the characters into archetypes even when it doesn't fit. It's almost like the prophecy is fit even better by our actions. When Gaster speaks directly to us about how interesting our actions are, he only does so when we restart to try a fight we likely can't win a number of times over. He is not fazed when we take the weird route, even though it's characterized by breaking the game. Following this logic, since Noelle is the girl in the prophecy, Susie exists outside of it. She'll be dejected at being forgotten again and how she doesn't matter, then recontextualize it as having the ability to change fate. She will be the hero. Something interesting to note, the enemies in this chapter are the first that I've seen that really reminds me of Memory Head, the amalgam from Undertale. Every other character held some obvious origin, but this one felt a bit more disturbing, less sensical, melted faces piled on one another to form the image of something like a tadpole. In chapter 4, it is the first time we've seen anything like it. It looks like a balled up fetus. They are Titan spawn, little droplets of darkness. Memory Head's fight references a cell phone, which in Deltarune is tied to the garbage noise we hear slowed down in the mysterious bunker. No idea what the significance is, probably the connection to the darker than dark, that sort of whole line of thinking. Okay, since I'm talking about Undertale, I know this isn't like directly related. I always thought that Memory Head looked like a melted Gaster Blaster, or maybe an unrefined Gaster Blaster. If you don't know what that is, it's Sans' big laser move is called. I'm surprised we haven't seen this shape much elsewhere. It's pretty cool. Alright, since we brought up the bone man, let's get into it. Okay, Sans is totally from Deltarune, right? Is everyone on the same page? The song that plays after exiting the church is called The Place Where It Rained, a reference to Undertale's It's Raining Somewhere Else. We were already sold on the idea that Sans would be world hopping somehow. I think it's more likely that Sans came to Undertale after Deltarune than the other way around. I think Sans scratching out an old name was kind of a misdirect. It's more likely that the remaining S in Grillby's is actually a holdout from an establishment made before Sans took it over. He also doesn't have any creepy undertones like in Undertale, since he knows more than he lets on or straight up teleports. We never see a darker side to him here, but maybe we need to give him some time. But for now, I'm sold on Sans Deltarune. This song was the final push that I needed to say it with my chest and not care if I'm wrong. Alright, that's all I got. There's probably a lot more that I missed. Feel free to comment that if you want to. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the members at the time of writing. Yurianu, Anonymous Toast, and Hallie Wedge. If you want a little highlight collection between me and my boyfriend, it's on the second channel.
Why are you being obtuse? What are you? Because you're not real. Because you're Chris. Because you are a tulpa that Chris created. You know what a tulpa is?
Yeah. I first learned about it through, like, someone had, like, a tulpa from, like, Tracer from Overwatch.
Oh no!
And she would, like, insult them and tell them their dick was small.
Hope you enjoyed. I enjoy talking about indie games. It's what I do here. Alright, peace, love, and chicken grease.
Jesus, yeah. I knew someone in high school that says cheese and rice. Cheese and rice?
I say peas and lobe.
Also, who the fuck is Mike?